What would the slope of a graph of time in hours versus average speed in miles per hour tell me? Well, I'm not even going to draw X and Y axis, I'm just going to draw a fundamental triangle. Now, if your average speed is greater, what's going to happen to your time required to make the trip?
Sure.
It's going to get shorter, right? So is the graph going to be increasing or decreasing?
Decreasing.
It's going to be decreasing because the time in hours is less if your miles per hour are greater, right? So I'm going to draw an appropriately descending fundamental triangle. What's the run correspond to? I don't have numbers.
How many miles traveled?
I'm sorry.
How many miles traveled?
No. Your run is your average speed. Well,
Miles.
this axis, this direction on the graph represents a change in your average speed, right? What represents your average speed, you don't know what the speeds are, I didn't say. It's the change in your average speed between two different trips, presumably. Okay? Now, you understand that when you do the fundamental triangle between 2 points of a graph, the run is the change in this coordinate, and your rise is the change in this coordinate, right? If this coordinate represents your average speed in miles per hour, then this is a change in the average speed, right? And, okay, you can't change your average speed on a trip on one trip. You got to have two trips where you compare your average speed, okay? So like, I'm driving to Blacksburg to pick up my grandson or something, okay? It's about a 2-hour trip, okay? My average speed, well, between here and where I turn off is probably going to be about 70 miles an hour, okay? Because I always obey speed limits. But then between there and Virginia Tech, I don't know if you've made that trip, you got to go through Christiansburg and a lot of things. You slow way down. It takes a good half hour to get from the interstate to Christiansburg. It doesn't take that long to get to the turnoff, about an hour and a half, and you're not there yet. Okay? So probably it's a 100-mile trip in 2 hours, about 50 miles an hour. Okay? That'd be my average speed. Now if I wouldn't ever do it, but if I traveled 80 miles an hour, I'd get there probably 10 minutes quicker. My average speed wouldn't go up by 10 miles an hour because I got the slow thing, but I could compare the two trips, right? So maybe my average speed goes up to 55 miles an hour, or 53 miles, or whatever, okay? It'd be more like 57, numbers I was using, but so I'd have a change in average speed between two different trips. Okay, so presumably your rise is a change in time to make the trip. If you don't have the word change when you're trying to interpret just a question like this without numbers on it, if you don't identify the run as a change in one quantity and the rise as a change in the other, you're going to lose points. And you're not going to understand it as well. Okay? You can make a good attempt at it. You get the rhythm but not the music. I'm going to be fairly lenient with partial credit on this test because this is kind of new and it's kind of challenging, okay? So don't feel like you're ruining your life if you leave out a couple of words. Try to get the words in there because that's how you get full credit. That's how you make an A and not a C, okay? So, your slope is rise over run. That equals change in time, and I would actually advocate writing out the change in the time required to make a trip, okay, divided by change in average speed, okay, equals average rate of change of time. That word I smudged at the end there is required. With respect to average speed. And that's all smudged together, so. And you can't read that, but you've seen that terminology at the beginning when I introduced rates of change. It's the average rate of change of whatever the y quantity is with respect to the x quantity, and not with respect to change in the x quantity. The other word change occurs in rate of change, which is ROC, and we've been using that one. So if you've been reviewing, you've reinforced that, and if you just remember, you've reinforced it, okay? That's how you analyze any of these things, okay? And if you can't imagine what that means, well, it depends on how off the wall the meaning might be, okay? But I want to see all those words, okay? If you can't get them all, get as many as you can and be aware that maybe you're missing something. But try to get them all. The language is always the same. And I've done this a few times, okay? Just want to emphasize it now, because by next time I see you, you're going to have taken the test, okay?